I was living a pretty good life until recently. 6 years of marriage to Stephanie, what I thought was a rock-solid relationship built on mutual respect and love. But things started changing when I gained weight due to my stressful job. 60 pounds in 2 years, and suddenly I could feel her eyes judging me, her comments getting sharper. When her college friend Jake showed up tall and fit, I noticed something in her eyes I had never seen before. Something that made my stomach turn. Before I continue with my story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you find this story relatable, hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences that might help you navigate your own relationships. When I first met Stephanie at that university party 8 years ago, I was in the best shape of my life. Playing college football kept me disciplined, muscular, and confident. I still remember the way she looked at me across that crowded room, her eyes lingering a moment longer than necessary. I approached her, we talked for hours, and that was it. I was captivated by her laugh, her intelligence, her ambition. Dating Stephanie was exciting. We hiked on weekends, played tennis, and enjoyed an active lifestyle together. She often told me how attracted she was to my athletic build, how safe she felt in my arms. When I proposed after 2 years of dating, she said it was the easiest yes of her life. The first 4 years of marriage were blissful. We moved into a beautiful suburban home, adopted a golden retriever named Max, and built what I thought was an unshakable foundation. Stephanie worked as a marketing executive, while I built my career in project management. We complemented each other perfectly, or so I believed. "You were my dream man," she used to tell me as we lay in bed together. "I show your pictures to all my friends. They are so jealous." I never realized how much those compliments about my physical appearance meant to her, or how quickly things would change when my body did. Everything shifted when I got promoted to senior project manager at my company. The position came with a substantial pay increase, but also with tremendous responsibility. I was suddenly managing our biggest clients, overseeing a team of 12 people, and answering directly to the executive board. My days extended well beyond the normal 9 to 5. I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning, rush to the office by 7, and often not return home until 8 or 9 at night. Lunch became something I ate hurriedly at my desk, often ordering fast food or pizza for convenience. Dinners were late, heavy, and followed by immediate sleep from exhaustion. My gym membership card gathered dust in my wallet. The weekend hikes with Stephanie became increasingly rare, as I spent Saturdays catching up on emails and Sundays recovering from the work week. The stress drove me to find comfort in food. Late-night snacks while finishing proposals, drive-through breakfasts on the way to early meetings. The pounds accumulated steadily, almost imperceptibly at first. "Are you going to finish that entire pizza by yourself?" Stephanie asked one evening, her voice carrying a note of surprise and something else. "Disappointment, perhaps." "Long day," I replied, barely registering her tone. "The Parker account is killing me." "Maybe you should take a walk after dinner, get some fresh air," she suggested. I nodded but sank deeper into the couch instead, too tired to move. These subtle comments gradually became more frequent. "That shirt seems tight on you now," or maybe "skip dessert tonight." At first, I barely noticed them. When I did, I brushed them off as concern for my health. But as my weight continued to climb, her remarks became impossible to ignore. 6 months into my new position, I had gained 30 pounds. My suits had to be let out. My wedding ring felt snug. When I looked in the mirror, I hardly recognized myself. But I was succeeding at work, bringing in new clients, getting recognition from upper management. I told myself the physical changes were temporary, a necessary sacrifice for career advancement. Then came the night that should have been my first real warning. I reached for Stephanie in bed, but she pulled away. "Not tonight, Brooke. I have an early meeting tomorrow," she said, turning her back to me. This became a pattern. Excuses multiplied. Headaches, fatigue, early mornings. After 2 weeks of rejection, I confronted her. "Is everything okay between us? You seem distant lately." She sighed, sitting up in bed. "Do you really want me to be honest, Brooke?" "Of course I do. I am not attracted to you like I used to be," she said, her words precise and cutting. "You have changed. You are not the man I married." Her words hit me like a physical blow. "It is just weight, Stephanie. I have been under a lot of pressure at work. It is not permanent." "It is not just the weight," she replied, though her eyes traveled down to my stomach. "It is your energy, your confidence. You used to take care of yourself. Now all you do is work and eat. I promised to make changes." The next day, I dug out my old workout clothes and went for a jog. I lasted 15 minutes before I was wheezing, my knees aching from carrying the extra weight. I downloaded a calorie counting app and began bringing healthier lunches to work. But the demands of my job remained relentless, and progress was frustratingly slow. 1 pound lost 1 week would return the next after a stressful project deadline. Despite my efforts, I could feel Stephanie slipping away. She started going out more with her girlfriends, coming home late, and slightly buzzed, no longer interested in telling me about her day. The physical distance between us on our king-sized bed grew wider. I was losing her, and I did not know how to stop it. I still hoped things would improve, that my efforts would eventually pay off, that she would see I was trying, that our love was stronger than changes in physical appearance. I was wrong. Everything took a turn for the worse when Jake entered our lives. He was Stephanie's college friend, who had moved back to town after working abroad for several years. I had heard his name mentioned occasionally in stories about her university days, but they had lost touch until he reached out to her on social media. Jake just moved back from London. Stephanie announced one evening, her voice more animated than it had been in months. He is working for that new tech startup downtown. We are going to catch up for coffee tomorrow. I nodded, happy to see her excited about something. That sounds nice. It will be good for you to reconnect with old friends. 3 days later, Stephanie suggested we all have dinner together. You will love Jake, she assured me. He was the life of every party in college. We met at an upscale restaurant downtown. Jake arrived before us, standing to greet Stephanie with a lingering hug that made my jaw clench involuntarily. He was tall with broad shoulders and not an ounce of excess fat visible under his tailored shirt. His handshake was firm. As he turned to me, his smile revealing perfect teeth. Brook, great to finally meet you. Steph talks about you all the time. Throughout dinner, I watched as Stephanie laughed at all of his jokes, leaned forward with interest at his stories about living in Europe, touched his arm repeatedly during conversation. She was luminous, engaged in a way I had not seen in months. Meanwhile, Jake made subtle comments that highlighted the differences between us. Brook, Steph tells me you were quite the athlete in college too, he said, taking a sip of his sparkling water. I still try to hit the gym, 5 days a week. Hard to find time, but you have got to prioritize health, right? Absolutely, I agreed, feeling self-conscious as I reached for another piece of bread. Work has been crazy lately, but I am trying to get back into a routine. You should come to my CrossFit gym sometime, he offered with a smile that did not reach his eyes. I could show you some efficient workouts. In and out in 30 minutes, no excuses. As dinner progressed, Stephanie made a comment that cut deeper than she perhaps intended. Jake just completed a marathon last month, she said, looking at him with unmistakable admiration. Remember when we used to run together, Brook? That feels like a lifetime ago. The comparison was clear, and it stung. What stung even more was the realization that Jake was everything I used to be, and everything Stephanie still wanted. After that dinner, Jake became an increasingly common presence in our lives. Stephanie began mentioning him regularly in conversation. Jake recommended this great podcast about nutrition, or Jake says this new restaurant has amazing low-carb options. Then came the text messages. Stephanie became protective of her phone, something that had never been an issue before. She would smile at the screen, type quickly, then put the phone face down when I entered the room. Her habits started changing too. She joined a new gym that coincidentally was where Jake worked out. She began coming home later, her hair damp from a post-workout shower, a glow in her cheeks that I had not seen in months. The evening spin class runs late, she explained, when I questioned her 8:30 return one night. One evening, while Stephanie was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I had never been the type to check her messages, but something compelled me to glance down. The preview notification made my blood run cold. Jake loved our session today. Same time tomorrow, I can show you that position we talked about. When confronted, Stephanie rolled her eyes. It is a training session, Brook. Jake is helping me with my form on squats. Get your mind out of the gutter. I wanted to believe her, needed to believe her, but doubt had taken root and it was growing rapidly. During this time, I redoubled my efforts to get back in shape. I woke up at 5 in the morning to exercise before work, downloaded meal plans, and even hired a nutritionist. In 2 weeks, I lost 7 pounds. Not dramatic, but a start. Have you noticed? I asked Stephanie one evening, standing a little straighter in the kitchen. The diet seems to be working. She glanced up briefly from her phone. "That is nice, Brooke," she said, before returning to her texting her indifference, more painful than any criticism. "I planned a special date night, making reservations at the restaurant where we had celebrated our engagement. I bought a new shirt that fit my current size properly, instead of straining against my expanded waistline. I got a haircut, trimmed my beard, and even bought flowers." That evening I waited downstairs, flowers and hand cologne applied. At 7:15 minutes after we were supposed to leave, Stephanie came down the stairs with a apologetic expression. "I am really sorry, but I have a migraine coming on. Would you mind if we postponed?" "You go ahead if you want. The reservation is under your name." "The reservation is for two," I said, unable to hide my disappointment. "Are you sure you cannot take something for the headache I already did?" "I just need to lie down in a dark room," she replied, already turning back toward the stairs. "Maybe next weekend." I canceled the reservation and ate a sandwich at home alone, the flowers wilting on the counter. Through the ceiling, I could hear Stephanie moving around in our bedroom, her footsteps too active for someone suffering from a debilitating migraine. Later, I heard the muted sound of her laughter, followed by the unmistakable tone of a phone call being whispered. The truth came crashing down on a Tuesday. I was supposed to be in an all-day strategy meeting with a potential new client, but the client had a family emergency and rescheduled for the following week. Rather than stay at the office, I decided to surprise Stephanie by coming home early, maybe suggest lunch together, and attempt to reconnect. I pulled into our driveway at 11:30 in the morning, noticing immediately an unfamiliar silver BMW parked on the street in front of our house. My stomach tightened as I recalled Stephanie mentioning that Jake had recently bought a new BMW. I told myself it could be anyone: a delivery, a repair person, a friend stopping by. The logical explanations lined up in my mind like soldiers ready to defend against the conclusion my heart already feared. The house was quiet when I entered. Too quiet. I called out Stephanie's name but received no answer. Then I heard a muffled laugh from upstairs, followed by a deeper voice that definitely was not my wife's. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. Our bedroom door was closed. I stood outside it for what felt like eternity, my hand frozen on the doorknob, knowing that opening it would forever change my life. When I finally pushed it open, the scene before me was exactly what I had feared, yet still came as a shocking blow. Stephanie and Jake in our bed, my bed. Her head thrown back in pleasure, his muscular body positioned over her. For a moment they did not notice me. Then Stephanie's eyes met mine, widening in shock. "Brooke," she gasped, pulling the sheet up to cover herself. Jake turned, his expression moving from surprise to something like smug pity. "I thought you had meetings all day," Stephanie said, as if that somehow explained or justified what I was witnessing. Obviously, I replied, my voice sounding strange and distant to my own ears. "What is this, Stephanie?" Jake began gathering his clothes, having the decency to at least look uncomfortable. "I should go," he mumbled. "No," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. "I think you should both explain what is happening in my house, in my bed." Stephanie's shock was quickly replaced by defiance. "What does it look like, Brooke? I am finally being with someone who makes me feel desired." "How long has this been going on?" I asked, though I was not sure I wanted the answer. "Does it matter?" she countered. "It does to me." She sighed, sitting up straighter but still clutching the sheet. "A few months, since Jake moved back." The timeline hit me hard. Almost from the beginning then. While I was struggling with work stress and self-image issues, while I was trying to save our marriage, she had already replaced me. So all those late nights at the gym, I asked, already knowing the answer. "Sometimes we were at the gym," Jake interjected with a half smile that made me want to punch him. "Get out," I told him, my voice dangerously low. "Get dressed and get out of my house right now." Jake grabbed the rest of his clothes and retreated to the bathroom. When the door closed behind him, I turned back to Stephanie. "Why?" It was all I could manage to ask. "Look at yourself, Brooke," she said, her words deliberate and cutting. "Look what you have become. You are not the man I married. You are not the athletic, confident guy I fell in love with. You are overweight, always tired, always stressed. What did you expect me to do?" "I expected you to honor our vows," I said. "For better or worse, remember, I have been trying to lose the weight. I have been working on it." "Too little, too late," she replied coldly. "Jake is everything you used to be. He makes me feel alive again." Jake emerged from the bathroom, fully dressed, now car keys in hand. "I will call you later," he said to Stephanie, not even looking in my direction as he brushed past me and headed downstairs. After we heard the front door close, the silence between Stephanie and me was deafening. "I want a divorce," she finally said, her voice eerily calm. This is not working for me anymore. It has not been working for a long time. You are leaving me because I gained weight, I asked incredulously. I am leaving you because you stopped caring, she replied. About yourself, about us, about what I need. Jake gives me what you cannot anymore. And what is that exactly? A man who respects himself enough to stay in shape. A man with energy and passion. A man who puts effort into his appearance and his health. Her eyes traveled over my body with unveiled disgust. You did this to yourself, Brook. You have no one else to blame. Those words cut deeper than any knife could have. In that moment I felt utterly worthless, completely unlovable. The woman who had promised to stand by me through anything was abandoning me when I was at my most vulnerable and blaming me for it. Get out, I told her, my voice breaking. Pack a bag and get out. I cannot look at you right now. This is my house too, she started to argue. The house that my salary mostly pays for, I reminded her. I will stay at a hotel tonight. When I come back tomorrow, I expect you to be gone. I turned and walked out of the room, out of the house that had once been our sanctuary, now tainted forever by betrayal. That first night alone in a sterile hotel room was the darkest of my life. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, replaying years of memories that now felt like lies. Had she ever truly loved me? Or had she only loved my appearance, the status of having an athletic husband? I called my best friend Tom, barely able to form coherent sentences as I explained what had happened. I am coming over, he said immediately. Do not do anything stupid. I will be there in 20 minutes. Tom arrived with a bottle of whiskey and a listening ear. As we sat in my hotel room drinking from plastic cups, he finally admitted something he had been keeping from me. I have heard rumors, man, he said reluctantly, about Stephanie and Jake. I did not want to tell you without proof. How long have you heard these rumors? I asked, my stomach sinking further. A few weeks. Sarah saw them together at a restaurant across town. They looked intimate. I told her it had to be a misunderstanding. The revelation that others knew that I might have been the last to find out added humiliation to my pain. I spent that night alternating between rage, despair, and a terrifying numbness. After a week in the hotel, existing in a fog of pain and disbelief, I made a decision. I would not let Stephanie's betrayal define the rest of my life. I would not continue to be a victim. I returned to our house on a Saturday morning when I knew she would be there. She had been texting and calling, alternating between angry demands about property division and half-hearted attempts at explanation. I had responded only to say I would come by to collect some of my things. She was in the kitchen when I arrived, looking surprisingly disheveled. The confident cold woman from a week ago was replaced by someone who seemed uncertain, maybe even regretful. For a moment, a traitorous part of my heart leapt with hope. Brook, she said, standing up quickly, I am glad you came. We need to talk. I am just here for my clothes and personal items, I replied, heading straight for the stairs. Please, she called after me. Can we discuss this like adults? I made a mistake. I stopped and turned to face her. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill or buying the wrong brand of coffee. Sleeping with another man in our bed for months is not a mistake, Stephanie. It is a choice you made repeatedly. I was confused, she tried to explain. Jake and I have history. He caught me at a vulnerable time. And whose fault is that, I asked. You made me feel worthless because of my weight, then used it as an excuse to cheat. What kind of person does that? I know what I did was wrong, she admitted. But you changed too, Brook. You have to acknowledge that. Yes, I gained weight. I was stressed and working 60-hour weeks to provide for us. I was trying to lose it. I was trying to save our marriage while you were already destroying it. I went upstairs and packed 2 suitcases with clothing and essential items. When I came back down, Stephanie was crying at the kitchen table. Once those tears would have devastated me. Now they seemed manipulative and too late. I have spoken to a lawyer, I told her. You will be receiving divorce papers next week. I suggest you find your own attorney. So that is it, she asked. 6 years of marriage over just like that. It was over the moment you invited Jake into our bed, I replied. You just did not bother to tell me. As I reached for the door, she called out, Where are you going to stay? I have leased an apartment downtown, month to month until the divorce is finalized and we can sell this house. And then what? She asked. Then I rebuild my life, I said simply. Without you. The apartment was small but clean, a fresh start. That first night alone I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, really looking at myself for the first time in months. The extra weight, the tired eyes, the slumped posture of defeat. I made a promise to that reflection that things would change, not for Stephanie but for me. The next day, I contacted a therapist who specialized in divorce recovery and self-esteem issues. Dr. Martinez became my lifeline in those early weeks, helping me work through the anger and betrayal without turning it inward. Your worth is not determined by your appearance or by someone else's ability to stay faithful, she reminded me during our sessions. Stephanie's actions reflect her character, not your value. I also hired a personal trainer, Jason, who had experience working with clients recovering from emotional trauma. We are going to take this slow and steady, he assured me during our first session. This is about health, not punishment. With Jason's guidance, I began a sustainable exercise routine. 3 days a week at first, focusing on rebuilding my endurance and strength. We added additional days as my body adapted. The first month was grueling, my muscles protesting after years of inactivity, but I persisted. I overhauled my diet with help from a nutritionist, learning to prepare quick, healthy meals that worked with my busy schedule. I spoke with my boss about creating better boundaries at work, explaining that my health needed to become a priority. To my surprise, he was supportive, helping me restructure my project load and delegate more effectively. Gradually, my body began to respond to these changes. The first 10 pounds came off slowly, but they marked a turning point. I began sleeping better, having more energy, feeling more like myself again. By the 3-month mark, I had lost 25 pounds and gained significant muscle tone. But the physical transformation was only part of the journey. The more important changes were happening internally. I was learning to value myself again, to understand that my worth was not tied to a number on a scale or to someone else's approval. I was building a new life, making new friends through my fitness classes, reconnecting with old friends I had lost touch with during my marriage. The divorce proceedings were finalized faster than expected. Stephanie did not contest anything once she realized I had documentation of her infidelity. We sold the house, split the proceeds, and went our separate ways. I heard through mutual friends that she and Jake were officially dating now, but the news no longer had the power to wound me. 6 months after that devastating Tuesday, I had lost 40 pounds, returning close to my college weight. More importantly, I had gained perspective, strength, and self-respect. Then came an unexpected encounter. My company was hosting a client appreciation event at an upscale hotel downtown. As I was mingling with clients, feeling confident in my well-fitted suit, I spotted Stephanie across the room. Her company was one of our client's partners, making her attendance unavoidable. Our eyes met, and I watched as surprise registered on her face. She excused herself from her conversation and made her way toward me. "Brooke," she said, her eyes traveling over my transformed physique. "You look amazing." "Thank you," I replied simply. "I have been thinking about you," she continued, stepping closer. "About us. I made a huge mistake." "And where is Jake?" I asked. She hesitated. "We broke up a month ago. He was not who I thought he was." "I am sorry to hear that," I said, genuinely meaning it. I would not wish pain on anyone, even her. "Maybe we could get coffee sometime," she suggested, touching my arm lightly. "Talk about things. I miss you." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but a distant sadness for what had been lost. "No, Stephanie. I do not think that would be a good idea." "Is there someone else?" she asked, a note of jealousy in her voice. "That is not relevant," I replied. "What matters is that I have moved on. I wish you well, but my life is on a different path now." The hurt and surprise in her eyes was evident, but for once I felt no responsibility for her emotions. I excused myself politely and rejoined my colleagues, leaving the past firmly behind me. 2 weeks after the event, I met Amanda at a charity run my company sponsored. She was smart, kind, and shared my newfound passion for fitness. Our first date was refreshingly honest, both of us sharing past relationship struggles and the lessons we had learned. "Physical attraction is important," she told me over dinner, "but it is just one small part of what makes someone lovable. Character, kindness, how you treat others when no one is watching, that is what matters in the long run." As my relationship with Amanda developed, I reflected often on the painful journey that had brought me to this point. In losing my marriage, I had found myself. In facing betrayal, I had discovered my own strength and resilience. The truth is, sometimes you have to lose what you thought you wanted to find what you truly need. Sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. And sometimes the weight you need to lose is not just physical, but the weight of someone else's expectations and conditional love. Have you ever had to rebuild yourself after a betrayal? How did you find the strength to move forward? Share your story in the comments below, and, if this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Your support means everything as we navigate these challenging human experiences together. Remember, your worth is never determined by someone else's inability to see your value. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next story.